Good morning. My name is Maciej Balicki, and I'm here today to talk to you about how I was learning Danish, or I would rather say how I started to learn Danish and how I'm still learning the language, because it's a process that it's an ongoing process. It's a lifelong learning that hasn't ended yet. I'm still in the process. I'm a teacher of Danish as a second language here at VSK, where we are now. But my adventure with Danish started many years ago. I counted that yesterday, it was 27 years ago in mid-90s. I was born and raised in Poland, and I got more formal training in Danish at University of Gdańsk in Poland, where I started to learn Danish in more formal setting in the classroom. And at that time, when I started Danish, we had like 2 books and 1 tape, because we are going to talk today about modern technology. That was the technology that was available at the time. And I was first year student of Danish. We didn't have Danish line, as it's called, before at our Scandinavian department. We had Swedish and Norwegian, but Danish was something new. And I was eager to travel, and I was really much into learning foreign languages. So I chose by pure coincidence Danish. At the time, probably my knowledge about Denmark was limited to Liga, Building Blocks, and Hans Christian Andersen. But this is my story in a nutshell. There are 5 chapters, and they are divided by different countries. Probably I am a perfect example of a migrant. Like the first 2 chapters, they are like connected together, because while I was studying Danish in Poland in the classroom, I was also several times in Denmark, and I got the scholarship from Demokratifonden, which was like a democracy foundation at the time. Poland wasn't a member of European Union. But there was a foundation that sponsored young people to come over to Denmark and learn the language. I went to Folk High School in Askov in rural Denmark. And probably that stay of 7 months at boarding school was the place where I learned a lot about the language and the culture. I was learning the Danish culture through the language, and I was learning Danish language through the other way around. Language through the culture and culture through the language. Although at that time I didn't speak so much Danish, so it was like quite limited how much I could understand. But little by little, I was learning more and more in more informal settings, because although we had Danish classes at school, we went for trips with our Danish students. We visited historical sites. We visited the Danish minority in Flensburg, and we were some workshops where we learned Danish as well in more informal way. And there were like that was struck me most was in Poland. There's a lot of at the time when I was a student, there was a hierarchy. There was a long way between a student and a professor. But I remember when I was at this Askov Folk High School, we were invited to our teachers. We could have coffee together and talk together, ask them questions, and there were no wrong questions. And so that was very interesting, and for me as a student from a former Eastern Bloc country. We were celebrating Christmas, Easter, Carnival together. That's where we where I learned a lot about Denmark. And although I went to Denmark again a few years later to Copenhagen I was an exchange student at the University of Copenhagen. I must say that the stay in the folk high school gave me even more because it was easier. I had a easier access to people. Although I say to my students, yes, you need to use the language outside the school, but it's really hard to get to people and how to meet the people when you don't have opportunity. So at that time, I had a great opportunity to meet the people and learn the language. But you mentioned that there are different types of migrants, and number 3, Ireland. I was a love migrant. I went to Ireland where I worked in an international company, but I worked in the Danish team. So I had Danish colleagues while being in Denmark. So I had 2 working languages. It was English and Danish, and actually mostly Danish. And at that time, of course, you use a lot of language on daily basis. I improved a lot my listening skills because I had to pick up the phone and call Danish partners and answer the phone calls. And also we would meet after work, and if we are only Danish speakers, then we would talk a lot in Danish and improve the language. But life is like a box of chocolate, and you never know what you get. So I went to Canada together with my wife at that time. She's still my wife, but yeah, there was very little need for Danish in Edmonton, in Western Canada. So what I do now, I was really sorry because I used Danish for a long time, and then it was also my work. And so in Canada for 4 years, actually I didn't speak any Danish, but I wanted to maintain the language and keep it fresh. And fortunately, that was 10 years ago, and I had access to media. And the Danish TV content wasn't blocked in Canada, so I watch a lot of TV at the time, and I made some translations, but that was how I could maintain the language being so far away from Denmark, and I didn't have any Danish friends in Canada. I met a few people, but it was like you have to also have the common interest if you want to use the language and be together. So after those 4 years, when I was trying to maintain the language, I came to Denmark. My wife got a job here. She's a researcher, and we wanted to be closer to our family and friends. So we decided, we looked at the map and said Denmark worked perfectly well, because in Canada, the distances are huge. And when you look at the map, Denmark, Poland, that's very close. We can go there. And here, like after so long time without talking any Danish, I was like, oh, that my Danish was really rusty. But little by little, I refresh it, and I learned a lot through, I call it everyday life. My first, I wanted actually to mention more because everyday life, that's a lot of aspects. But I learned a lot Danish through kids. That's very helpful, because then you meet other parents and teachers and kids where you have to speak Danish to them. that helped me a lot, and it's a very informal way of learning everyday expressions, and being very attentive to what they say and how they say it. So that would be kindergarten, that would be school, that would be neighbors. I use a lot Danish on daily basis, and I'm still learning the language. It's still the ongoing process, and of course I work with Danish now, so and I meet colleagues and talk to them. That is really helpful. Like work and kids, I would say that's the key to improve the language and learn it. Yes, that's what I prepared for today. And if you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer them.